2. There we go. All right. So it's been a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and start. And then if more people come, I'll just let them in. But Paige, tonight, since you're the only one, I hope you don't mind having a conversation with us. And if you don't feel comfortable with it, that's perfectly okay. We understand. We're wanting to talk about the topic organized chaos and really just kind of dive into some of the, I guess, tips, techniques, things that we have learned, because it's all trial and error, right? Because what works for one person doesn't work for another. And kind of really just help each other through each of the seasons of life. I'm going to start, and then I'm going to ask Meghan to share some. And then Paige, if you'd like to share too, please feel free. But so I have 6 children, and they range from 17 to 9. But what's really important, and she's not attached. Oh, hi, Wendy. Thank you for joining. So my 6 kids are 17. Hang on, I have to think. 15, 13, almost 13 next month, and 9. So what worked for us when they were little is definitely different than what works now as teenagers. But I printed off a couple notes to help me stay on task, because I'm very ADD and scattered. But we like to, even when they were little, it helped breaking the tasks into chunks. So I'm just diving right in, and I apologize for that. So if you want me to talk more about anything, if I breeze through it, feel free to stop me. But breaking tasks into chunks. For example, our 9-year-old, you can't tell him 3 different things to go do and him go do it, right? But our teenagers, you can. So breaking things into chunks. I am a master at checklists or to-do lists. I have them posted all over my house. As each school year starts, or each season in life, as things change, this is your morning routine. This is your evening routine. Writing it down so not only they remember and stay on task, but for me, so that I remember, wait, what were you supposed to do again this morning? Because maybe I got out of routine or forgot what the next step was. Teaching the calendar and time management skills, that has been, for some of my children, very difficult to do. But as they learn it, or as they start learning it, it has been huge at helping them become more independent in school specifically. We homeschooled for about 10 years, different combinations of our 6 children over the last 10 years. This year, 5 of our 6 are in school, and one's in college, 3 are in high school, and 1 is in middle school. So all of them, I'm expecting it, other than the 9-year-old, to be more independent. And that calendar introduction and time management skills definitely has helped, because I've slowly been introducing that to them. The daily routines, and you might already do this, but if you don't, I've figured out that when we don't have a routine, it is definitely chaos in our house. Not organized in any way whatsoever, no matter how I try. But I put in that routine, I put in that schedule, and I say, even in the summer, this is what we're doing in the mornings, this is what we're doing next, and we're sticking to it. And the days just go by so much easier. They know what to expect. They're not asking me as many. They're still asking a million questions, but they're not asking as many questions. And it just helps all of us get through the days better. Creating organized workspaces, I have found, is a big one too. Whether it be in your bedroom, their bedroom, whether you have what did we call it, Joe, in the butler pantry? I can't remember. I had a name for it, and I just lost it. But a command center. It was our family command center. We have a big whiteboard with a big calendar on it, the chore list, the to-do list, like everything's right there, and they know where to find everything, and that their hooks for their book bags for school, their jackets, their whatever. So that's, why did I just forget it again? Family Command Center. I don't usually say it to them, so we just call it a butler pantry, but that in my mind is what it is the Family Command Center, because they can find everything there. So that organized workspace, no matter where it is or what it is for you, if it's individual for each person, that way you feel like the clutter's gone, you're able to focus. This I was reminded of this morning when my middle schooler started pulling out wadded up pieces of paper out of her book bag. And doing regular backpack checks is important, because sometimes they haven't quite gotten down those organizational skills yet, in order to not be chaotic on their own. It's not organized at all for them, right? No organized chaos for them at that point. And then helping them think ahead. Each week, I have a kid or two on the dinner schedule that have to plan and make dinner. And I'm trying to teach them to plan ahead. What do you need for the meal? How long do you need for the meal to cook? Like all these steps, so they learn to plan ahead, to think ahead. In addition to that, we have a chalkboard. I said I'd list everywhere. We have a chalkboard with every meal for every day. This is what to expect. That way I'm not being asked, what's for dinner? What's for dinner? We have another weekly, so that, some people, a whole month looking at it is overwhelming. But if you break it down to a week or to a day and you take bite-sized pieces of it, it's easier to take in. So we have a weekly whiteboard in the kitchen too. And that way, if the month overwhelms them or they can't read it all because it's too much, then there's a week one, and then they can take those bite-sized pieces and know what to expect for the week. So I don't know everyone's religious affiliation, or if you are or not. But another thing that I do is I just stop and pray if I feel overwhelmed. Another thing, stop and do absolutely nothing. If your chaos isn't organized yet and you are overwhelmed and you don't know what to do, don't do anything for a moment. Let yourself and your mind calm down. We talked about the planning of dinners. So if you make your schedules, make your dinner menu, make your deadlines before it's necessary, before you're overwhelmed, don't procrastinate. Keep on task with it. Another thing that I'm horrible at is don't multitask. I mean, what mother can't multitask? I mean, we have to, right? But if you can limit some of the things that you're multitasking, you can make the few that you are working on better. You're more productive. You can focus in on those a little better. Now, procrastinating, I'm bad at that too, but I try not to procrastinate, because when you do, you get more stressed. You're more overwhelmed. You know that it's more of an emergent feeling that you have to get whatever it is done, because you have to at that point, instead of taking the time and letting yourself ease into whatever it was. And using a planner. I mentioned the weekly whiteboard, the monthly whiteboard, but also I have my planner somewhere on my desk, a paper planner, write it down, or your Google Calendar on your phone or your device. All of those definitely help. I did a little bit of research before this, and I found out that research shows that disorganization and clutter have an effect on our brains, our physical environment, the whole place, your whole house or your work desk or wherever. It influences our cognitive, our emotional, and our subsequent behaviors, including our relationships with others. So if you don't feel good about your surroundings and your surroundings don't look good to you, if they're cluttered, if they're overwhelming, then your relationship with your children and your husband aren't going to be as positive as they could be. Our brains naturally like order. So if we need constant visual reminders of that. So if we see the chaos, if we fix it, then our brains feel better. They're more at peace. It can overload our brain and our memory, thus causing our memory to fail us a little, can cause us to feel stressed, anxious, and depressed. And in a study in 2009, levels of the stress hormone cortisol were hugely higher in mothers whose home environment was cluttered versus those who were not. So those were some of the tips that I just wrote down off the top of my head as I was thinking about this workshop tonight. But I didn't want to write down too much because I wanted to give Meghan and anyone else that wanted to join, but I wanted to give Meghan some time to share as well. So Meghan, would you please tell us a little bit about yourself and share your tips tonight?
Sure. I'm a mom of 6 as well. Sandy and I actually met in a group that we're talking about their kids, and we actually have never formally met, only through Facebook, but we've been friends for years now. I'm thinking right around 8 or 9 years, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it? I think. Anyway, my kids are, the oldest is 15 and they go down to 8. So I've got a 15-year-old, I've got a 13-year-old and an almost 13-year-old. I've got a 11-year-old, a 10-year-old, and an 8-year-old. So yeah, there's never a dull moment here either. And lots of chaos. Our life is a little different than Sandy's as far as I homeschool all our kids, and we take on a lot more child-led learning approach. Um, so there's a lot of potential for chaos in our lives because all the kids kind of do, they're interest led. So they do a lot of what's interesting them at the moment. And we do a lot of family projects and stay outside as much as possible when it's nice weather. Um, we live in Montana, so we do get stuck in the house throughout the winter for sure, and some of the other spring and fall as well can keep us indoors for most of the day. So that means that we have a lot of people pretty much 24/7 in our home, especially with COVID and a high risk child. We've had to take some extra precautions, which means we spent a lot more time at home. So when Sandy asked me to help her co-host this, I thought of what really is helping me with all this chaos. And I'm a highly sensitive person, so even as Sandy talked about having how chaos affects all of us, as a highly sensitive person, it even affects me more. The visual stimuli around me really is wearing on me, and I didn't understand that for many years. And as I've grown in more self-awareness, I realized how it is. It's like a heavy burden on me when my world is visually chaotic and noise as well. But since we're talking about chaos, this especially is one of the things that overwhelms my sensory system really quickly. And I've tried to balance this line between being a picky mom and caring for myself in all of this. So as I thought of that, I thought, for me, it's a lot of looking at priorities. I made a list too. Um, so I'll be looking at that some. Um, looking at priorities, what really, really matters to me? What do I have to accomplish? And what is going to make my life more simple? Because I think we can all hear these organization things, and I think they can be maybe even overwhelming. The organization, we can get overwhelmed organizing and even pick up some shame along the way as far as when we hear other moms. As Sandy was talking, I was starting to feel I was like, oh my goodness, her life, she teaches her kids calendars and time management. And I do too, I guess. But when she said it, I was just like, oh man, I'm falling down on the job. And Sandy would never want me to feel like that. And that's the same with my things. I would never want anyone to feel overwhelmed by the things. These things are supposed to uplift us. If organization is not uplifting us, it is not doing what it's meant to do for us. And so we all have room to grow. So I'm going to be writing Sandy's time management down and thinking about how maybe my kids could benefit from that. But this is not a shame. None of this is shaming. So as I share, I want you to know that even though my house is probably a lot more tidy and I'm a little more minimalistic And the things I might share with you, if it's not a good fit for you, it's not a good fit for you. You have to see what brings you joy and peace in your own home, because that's really where organizations, that's that's the gold in all of this, is bringing things that bring us peace. And some people, I have a friend who loves more clutter. Actually, she enjoys, because these things bring her so much joy. Does she wish her life was more organized? I think yes. But she would never be able to survive in my house that is a lot more minimalistic, because she loves to surround herself with things that bring her joy. So to what looks cluttered to me is actually beautiful memories, kids artwork. um, they bring her joy. She'll go through her house and she'll show me these wonderful things, and to me it would be overstimulating, but to her it brings her that centering peace and joy of surrounding herself with these good things in her life. So when I was thinking about that, I was thinking about, you have to look at your priorities in all of this. And when I started looking at it, I was like, okay, what can I let go? What doesn't bug me? And what does bug me in our home? One of the things that bugs me is clutter. You can't stand it. But I can stand messy drawers. I'll be okay with a messy drawer. You know what, guys? I can compromise in a messy drawer. I need this laundry done. And when it comes out of the dryer, even if the baskets start overflowing, there's two baskets. If they start overflowing on top of that wash machine, it's time to sort that laundry and be taken to each other's rooms. And then it goes in the drawers. I don't stress over folding. We don't fold. The towels get rolled up. The washcloths sort of folded. But that's something I can let go. As long as it fits in the drawer shut, without wrecking the dresser here, I can let it go. Also, matching socks. I absolutely hate matching socks. And so it is like it drives me crazy. I don't know why. It's probably because my wash machine eats all the matches. And so I feel like a failure every time there's no matches. So we wear mismatched socks most of the time. And most of them, now the kids are getting a little older now. So some of the older ones want their own socks. But we share socks in our home. And it may seem like I'm saying this may not be a good fit for you. I wasn't sure if I should share this one, because to some people that is not very hygienic. But we have a drawer in our entrance room that has socks in it. And when socks come through the laundry, they go in that drawer. And anybody that gets ready to put on socks before they're ready to go outside, which some of the year my kids are very bare, they love their bare feet. So we're flip-flop family a lot of the year that we can, but here in Montana, that doesn't last for long. We can grab socks out there. If it's important that they have a matching pair to them, they can probably shift through the drawer and find matching socks if that's important to them. And if it's not, they can definitely find two socks that sort of look the same and fit them. And that's just how it works for us. The drawer shuts. I don't look at it. I don't have to spend time sorting or feeling bad that I can't find these socks that I spent how much money on. I don't know where the other match is. It just goes in there. And I buy a lot of socks that look similar and are unisex. I only have one boy, but some of my girls are not girly girls and prefer just white or black socks. So that's pretty much what we have. And they go in that drawer. And that is one of the ways I save a bit of my sanity. Another thing is an anything basket. I love baskets. I hate clutter, like I said, but it's inevitable to have things laying around in a family. So we have this thing where we call whooshing through the house, where we just go through and we just kind of tidy up as we go. And, if there's a Kindle laying around, a pair of earbuds, somebody's books, we have a basket in the corner of the living room that those things go into. So when you start looking for something, you try the anything basket. It's probably in there. That way it keeps us from losing things or people misplacing each other's items, while still being able to handle or create a sort of tidy atmosphere throughout the day. We have a basket of blankets, and I have a certain way I like the pillows put on the couches. And but it's easy to do because we do it multiple times a day. And if we always follow the same pattern of things. So it makes it very simple for kids to know how it goes. I don't try to change things up very often in this because then it makes it hard for us to keep on top of these things. So yeah, letting the little things go. If you can let little things go and they don't bug you, let them go. Like, I'm serious, I don't dust very often. But every once in a while it'll start to bother me. So then I do it. You know, listen to yourself. If it's starting to bug you, it's a sign that it's probably causing you stress. And I'm serious, the 10 minutes it takes you to do the little bit of dusting when you don't have very much clutter is well worth it. Another thing I do is, like Sandy, I have a large calendar on the wall. And with COVID, we don't have as many activities as we usually do, but it does help us to just be able to check in with that, to see what appointments we might have, or even just planned activities that we have been looking forward to. It's fun to have something to look forward to on there. I think one of the things is treasure drawers for our kids. Ever since they were very, very little, they've each had their own drawer for their treasure drawers. And we, for a long time, several months, we lived in a 400 square foot RV. So these treasure drawers became very important because they were their own personal space. And we've incorporated that into our home as well. Now, as they get older, all of our 4 oldest kids have their own rooms. Treasure drawers we've kind of outgrown treasure drawers. But how they worked when they were younger was I have those cubbies, you know, those ones that have like the soft containers, and I would mark it that that's their treasure drawer. And then they could keep whatever they wanted as long as it fit in the treasure drawer. And so like the little McDonald Happy Meals critters that, you know, were cluttering up the toy department, but they were so special, or the birthday card from the neighbor kid, or their art projects that, I mean, they've been smashed so many times, they don't even hardly look like an art project, but I mean, the memories are there. So they could put them in their treasure drawers and nobody would get them. Nobody would blame them for keeping it, or it was theirs and they could keep it in that treasure drawer. And we've had to do some drawer cleaning by times, but then they weighted against, do they want to keep this versus this? And, you know, that's good in life. Some of those lessons are important to teach our kids as well. But usually what they could fit in there was very remarkable and they didn't have to clean it out too often. But as they've gotten older, they've kind of growing out of that, and especially since they have their own rooms and it's not quite, they can have a little bit more of their own stuff. And they're also not saving all those little half-used tubes of lotion from a motel that we went to, or, you know, some very special stickers, and, you know, and they were just cluttering at my house, but I didn't want to pitch them because they were special to them. So then I could say, run this up to your treasure drawer. And it felt like I could honor their treasures while still getting the clutter away that I needed to. Let me look here. Oh, one of the things that I do is create calming spaces throughout my home. So obviously our home is not going to be chaos free. It is an impossible expectation. But if I make my bed every day, my bedroom is a calming space that I can walk into. I like my plants, so creating corners that have plants in them, create spaces that I can go to and take some deep breaths, like Sandy was talking about. Just, you know, if it starts to feel overwhelming, we have these grounding spaces that we can go to. I think that's really important in managing chaos because there is no way we can control it all. But sometimes we can control these little spaces within our homes. So yeah, for myself, it's a lot of self-awareness in my own needs and my kids' needs, but realizing my needs mattered. As a mom, our needs matter in our homes. And Sandy was telling us all the statistics about if we are going to be stressed from clutter, we are not going to be the parents that our kids need us to be and have the patience and endurance that's going to take to raise our families. So we, you know, stepping up and saying our needs are important in this, and then being responsible to create those spaces. Sandy is like very proactive in what she needs as far as that, helping her kids with meal planning. she needs them to do that, and she's proactive in making and setting up that scaffolding so that they really can be successful at that. So yeah, that's just a few of my tips that I had and I thought of it. Back to you, Sandy.
Thank you, Megan. Those were great. And I love your anything basket. We call them junk drawers. And anything basket sounds, but anything basket sounds so much nicer. Oh. We've also done the treasure drawers, which is a great idea. And you're right, as they get older, they kind of outgrow them.
Yeah,
but when they're younger, they're great. There were a couple things as you were talking that I forgot that I went past on my list. And one is, you mentioned dusting. You just, if it starts to bother you, get on your nerves, whatever, you just dust for a few minutes. Yeah. And one tip that I've always heard is do something every day for 10 or 15 minutes. Then it's less overwhelming, but you still feel productive and you still get some things done. Yeah. Also, where's the other one? Get the whole family involved. We have that chore list and they all have chores. And there was another one and I can't find it now, but I'm sure I'll find it in a minute. But I'm wondering if any of you ladies that haven't talked yet, do you have anything that you'd like to share? Any tips that as we were sharing, you're like, oh, I actually do this and it's similar, or maybe we didn't mention it, or maybe you have a question about something that we did bring up. Anybody want to share? Or tell us about your families, what you do. I would love to be able to learn from each other.
I'll go.
Thank you, Paige.
So I'm a mom currently of 6. We have 4 biological children. They are 20, 17, and 10 are our girls. And then we have a son who is 8. And then we adopted a little girl who is 2. And then we have a foster daughter who's 9. So we currently have 6, 5 in the house because our 20-year-old's out of the house now. But one thing that we've started doing that has helped a lot is I have, like you were talking about, the command center. On our command center, we have like these little bitty whiteboards that are magnetic that were from like the Dollar Tree. And we have them on the side of our refrigerator. And it's zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, and then like kind of like a to-do list on the 4th one. And so zone 1 is our kitchen. So in the kitchen, I've broken down like what needs to be done every day. And I've labeled each chore with like A is this, B is this, C is this. And so all the kids draw a task out and that's their task for the week. Zone 2 is our living room and our hallway. Zone 3 is our bathroom. And then just anything on the to-do list is stuff like, if I see that, the house is kind of dusty and it needs to be dusted, I might put everyone dust a room or something, things like that. Or if, it's time to clean out the refrigerator, then I might say, okay, everybody's cleaning out the refrigerator today. But that's helped because I can just put like on Monday, I might say, okay, zone 1's getting a little out of hand. So we're going to put zone 1 and then everybody knows what task they do. So everybody goes in there and works on it at the same time, but we're all doing our own individual chore. That has really helped to be like, well, it's not fair that I have to do the dishes every night, or why do I always have to take out the trash? So it's not monotonous. They get to change it up every week and they're drawing it. So it's not like we're assigning it. They're kind of like, oh man, that was unlucky. I got the one that I didn't like, or whatever. So kind of put it back on them. And then with the, other things that we do, I do like what she was talking about with the anything basket. I know when I've researched organizing before, it was called like the 5-minute tidy. Like whenever you go through the house and you just like throw everything in a basket, and then at the end of the day or whatever, we usually put it away. But we homeschool our 8-year-old and our 10-year-old, so like after we get done with all of our core subjects of the day, we just run through the house and just clean up everything, organize our space, and that's usually lunchtime, and then we'll work on all of our projects in the afternoon with a clean space started.
I love it. I love those all those that you do. That was Awesome. Sorry, I was taking notes and, and paying attention. It was great. Thank you so much for sharing.
No problem.
And I don't think that I mentioned that I adopted 3 of our 6 too.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Megan might share too, but that's cool. So I was thinking, and this is something that happened. Megan was talking about being in a highly, it's called a highly sensitive person, right, Megan? I was told recently that I was too. And when I researched what that was like, oh, I am. In addition to ADD. So I feel things. And you're talking about that noise, Megan. Oh my gosh. There are times that there's so much noise around me. They could be talking to me and I have to stop them and say, I literally cannot understand what you're saying. Like, I know that you're speaking English, but I can't process it. So you have to give me a few minutes. It's so hard.
I think it's the ADD because I will go to the loudest voice that I hear. And so someone may be sitting right in front of me talking. I'm like, I cannot hear anything that you're saying right now because all I can hear is my son in the background talking to someone else in the other room because he's so loud.
100%. And then they get mad at me, the quieter ones. I'm like, I'm sorry. You just apparently have to be louder because I just can't do it.
Yes, my 10-year-old Genesis, she's like, I literally asked you 3 times, Mom. I'm like, I can't hear you. Tap me, get my attention.
Yeah, I start zoning out. Like,
Yes.
To cope, I shut down. And it's very dangerous. My kids can't talk to me, and I will even respond to them. Like, yes, tell them yes, and I will have no recollection of
Yes.
it. And that's not a very good thing.
No, because then they take advantage of it and they go do things they know you would have said no to.
Oh yeah. I did tell them that if they notice, they could take both of my hands and ask me something, maybe then. But I'll start scrolling on my phone. I will zone out and I will start scrolling, and I can't. I like turn into my little myself. That's where it gets dangerous. Another thing I thought of,
go ahead.
Oh, I thought of one thing that helps us with chaos, because it becomes chaos when we have to do something sometimes, is transitioning, scaffolding through transitions in our family. Like, okay, so it would be great if I could just yell through the house, guys, we're leaving in 10 minutes, and everybody would happily come down and put their shoes on and be in the van. I wouldn't even have to do anything. That'd be amazing. Well, those expectations don't happen. Aren't reality. So I found it helpful to, give the 10-minute warning, but then scaffold through. Like, to 5 minutes, that there's probably going to be a kid that just is draggling, hasn't gone potty yet, hasn't gotten their shoes, haven't even found their shoes, haven't gone through the sock drawer and looked for matching socks. And so you're going to, just to realize and accept that I'm going to have to scaffold transitions. Maybe it starts with giving a warning, guys, in 10 minutes, I'm going to ask us to go potty and start, and then 5 minutes for that, and then actually follow through after that 5 minutes with going and collecting them to make sure the show is getting on the road here, and lowering those expectations and just knowing that I am responsible to make them do that instead of that, and even starting many minutes before, because like running late is one of my triggers. So I really need to be proactive in that. That's one of my self-awareness things, that I realize that I don't need to put that on my kids. That's something I have to be proactive in for myself, because we are just going to have tail draggers and the kids are going to be slow. It's inevitable. So I can set myself up for success, or I can set myself up to be really having to take some serious deep breaths and be projecting onto my kids my frustration in those times. And then it turns into chaos. That's unmanageable sometimes.
It's very true. It made me think of transitions, not just from like one activity to the next, like you were talking about, but also the transitions from one season of life to the next as well. And that being a very similar setting yourself and your children up for success during that transition. Because if you don't set them up, and Paige mentioned too, the wide range of ages that she has, and knowing, I mean, she's been through it with the older ones, knowing that these are the things that the next ones are going to go through, and helping set up their expectations and your own.
That is so true. I know that. I remember sitting in the parking lot at the library with my then 16-year-old, and she was probably about 6-year-old, I guess. And we were homeschooling. We were at the library. I was horribly sick that day, but I drove to the library because they needed to get more books or whatever. And so I gave my 16-year-old the library card, and I said, go in, get your books, check out, and just come back to the car. And she's like, wait, you're not coming in? And she just bust out in tears because she's like, I don't know how to do this. And I'm like, girl, we have been going to the library for like 10 years. Like, you know how to do this. And so I realized at that point, like, I have never really made her do anything on her own. So now my 8 and 10-year-old, I mean, like, I watch them like walk into Dollar Tree by themselves and watch them through the window to like, you pay for your stuff by yourself. Like, I am building you up to be a productive member and not have to rely on me so much. Like, I'm a lot less hands-on as my kids get, as I go on down the line with the kids, I guess, because I'm like, oh, okay, that was a mistake. I need to make sure that my kids are prepared to become an adult when it's that time.
100%. I agree with that. I'm so sorry for my dogs barking, by the way, during your talking, but yes. So, I had a kind of a similar experience. And I think some of that has to do with each individual child's personality too, of course, where some of my children are more outgoing. And even if I had never shown them, they would take the library card and go in just fine. But at the same time, some of them, they need that push, right? Like, I have a couple that I'm like, no, I'm sorry that you're sobbing now and you don't want to go in. I'm not always going to be there for you. So like, you have to do this, whether you want to or not. Like, yes. Go. So I totally agree.
I'm pushing you out of the nest. Let's go.
Yes. Gently, but yes, I'm pushing.
Learn to fly.
Yep. I have one in college right now. So that has been a transition moment for us. So she just left a few weeks ago. She's only an hour and a half-ish away, but that was a transition in our home. And then, so we have 6 kids, but only 5 here. And I thought it would really just be a transition for her. And I didn't think it would affect me how it has. Because I was reading on that her college has a parents Facebook page, and people are like, this is so hard and I'm sobbing and all this. I'm like, what's wrong with them? I'm fine. And while I haven't reacted in that way, I've still reacted in ways that I didn't anticipate. And Megan and I were talking about this before everyone jumped on. We got on a couple minutes early, and we were talking about how when you have your first child, you can never be prepared. Even if you think you are, you could read all the books and listen to all the advice, but you're never prepared. And going through certain transitions in life, like a child leaving the nest, is a very similar situation to having your first child.
Yes, I knew I was going to be petrified because I don't know. I never wanted to be an empty nester ever. My husband's like, yes, like, stop bringing kids, stop accepting kids. Like, I want to eventually just enjoy grandkids and, let's just enjoy not having children in the house. And I'm like, I really want one more baby, just one more baby. And, so I'm that way, but I knew she's only an hour and a half away too, but it's so weird, like, not being able to, I don't know. I go from talking to her every day to like hearing from her like once a week, or she might text me or something. And I'm like, you're supposed to call your mom every day.
Mine even has a plaque in her room that says, call your mom. Has she called her mom? No. She might text me every once in a while, but yeah. I'm like, what was that? That plaque's supposed to remind you. Come on.
Right.
But There were actually, I wrote down a couple books that I really enjoyed. I don't know if you guys are readers. I'm more of a listener. I like Audible more than and Hoopla, which is in Chattanooga's anyway, public library online version, but you can get some audiobooks on it. And I wrote down a few that have helped me in times of transition or in times of chaos when I was trying to get more organized. And I was just going to share those titles really fast. If you're taking notes and you want to write them down, Stronger Than the Struggle is one. And forgive me, I forgot to write down the authors, but I'm sure if you Google them, they'll come up. Atomic Habits, Pound the Stone, Eat That Frog, and Go Getter are just a few of the books. I had a goal last year, or maybe it was the year before. COVID has me confused. Last year, the year before, I had a goal to read or listen to 100 books. I got to 99 and I counted it up on New Year's Day and I'm like, oh, I almost got there. Why didn't I add it up yesterday? Anyway, so I got 99 books then, and I either listened to them or read them. And those are some of the few that stood out in this category that I really enjoyed. So I wanted to share. Did anybody have anything else? Any other tips they wanted to share? Anything else that you've thought of? Maybe you have questions about some of the things that we talked about. One thing I thought of when Meghan was sharing too is all of the things that I mentioned and that she mentioned and that Paige mentioned, it's a process. And Meghan kind of said that you don't get there overnight. Like I spent a little time here and a little time there and a little time there. And while all of it together can sound overwhelming and scary, you don't do it all at once. So it's not as overwhelming if you take those bite-sized pieces like I was mentioning earlier. And yes, Wendy, I can definitely name those books off again. Stronger Than the Struggle, Atomic Habits, Pound the Stone, Eat That Frog, and The Go Getter. I've also read several, and I'm sure all of you have too. So if you have any books that you've loved, parenting books, anything, leadership books, Meghan mentioned self-care. That's huge, especially when you do live in any kind of, you're welcome, Wendy, any kind of chaos or organized or not. So if you guys want to email me, if you want to drop your emails in the chat box, and if you then want to email me, we can share some of those too. If after this you're like, oh, I should have shared this, or oh, I forgot what they had said. This is also being recorded and it will be put on our YouTube channel. So you can go back and watch it again, so that if you have forgotten some of the tips that we talked about, you can get them then. Anything else anyone wants to share? I know Meghan isn't local, so she unfortunately will not benefit from this. However, the others, are you all local to Chattanooga by chance?
I'm in Loudon.
That's kind of close. Are you ever in Chattanooga?
Sometimes we take field trips to Chattanooga.
Oh, well, you could take a field trip to learn. I can't even say it. It's a spa, but there's $30 here. And Wendy, Paige, and Danielle, if you would like to be put in the drawing for this, if you could drop your email in the chat, and I'm going to put your 3 names in a basket because I like baskets too, Meghan. And I'm going to have my husband draw a name, and I'm going to email whatever name he pulls out, and then I can mail it to you or get it to you if you're local or whatever. And again, it's $30 toward anything at Larimar. I don't know how to say it. Anyway,
That's awesome.
Med Spa. So If you haven't dropped your email in the chat, do that. And my dogs are going to bark again. I think they're seeing squirrels. Burrow. Fabulous. Yes, I will add all three of you, Wendy, Danielle, and Paige, to that. And I don't want to keep you guys any longer because I don't think there's anything else anyone really has to share. I hope that this was helpful in some capacity, in some way. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. I'm assuming, I hope you can hear me over my dogs. I'm so sorry. I'm assuming that you're on here because you know something about RiseUp, whether it be we do adult workshops or you just saw the posting that I shared on Facebook. If you don't know more, we do life and leadership workshops for teens as well. And we do it every Tuesday night virtually, just like this. We gear it toward 13 to 23-year-olds because that transition's a big word tonight, that transitional age from the time they're leaving the nest and figuring out on their own, because it's not just the teenagers that need these skills, because sometimes they don't listen, right? So when they become that young adult, they're like, ooh, I didn't listen to that, and now I don't know it. So we try to get that age as well. But like tomorrow night, we have a local to me therapist coming in to talk about grief and how they can cope and deal with grief in their life. So that's just an example of the many workshops we have. Again, every Tuesday night, you can find it on our website and our Facebook page. It's always 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So wanted to put that plug in there for those of you that do have teens, if you work with teens, or even if you plan to work with or have kids one day, you're welcome to attend any of the workshops. Because quite honestly, I've learned something every time we have one. So they're hugely beneficial, I feel. But I'm going to go ahead, unless anybody has anything. Last call, or forever hold your peace. No?
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you, Meghan, for co-hosting with me, and Paige, Wendy, and Danielle for being here with us tonight. We greatly appreciate it. And I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Wendy, did you have something?
No, I was just going to say thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed the presentation.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. I feel like it was organized chaos, and it was kind of the point to just, because it's the topic.
Yeah, no, it was great. Thank you.
Great. You're welcome. Thank you so much. And all of you have a wonderful evening. Bye.
Bye. Thank